This is the Lydian spin, and you know we're not going to stop. But we would appreciate any help we can get because, look, our mouths do not run on gas and air alone, occasionally food and drink. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, no contribution, too large or too small, because we're just going to keep going whether or not you help us out. Your gain, your loss.
The PayPal is paypal.me/TSD1975. That's paypal.me/TSD1975.
It would help. We're going to keep going. You know, we don't like to beg, and certainly we're not, but actually, it's a fucking command. Take it or leave it. Thank you. This is the Lydian Spin. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, both of us in overcast but kind of nice Brooklyn, and Simon Slater, who's in his bathing suit in Arizona.
Humble brag, humble brag.
Yeah, well, Phoenix is clearly Simon's favorite city on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, I'm moving here. Yeah. Well, Scottsdale specifically.
Well, Scottsdale's kind of more like frat boys and stuff, right? It's a college town.
Yeah, Scottsdale seems to be like retirees and resorts.
Well, eventually we'll all get there, but I mean, the weather is so wackadoodle. I mean, heat wave in the West, blizzards in the Midwest, moderate where we are. It's just part of our fantastic new global reality.
I was talking about the other. Hold on, nothing happened. Ambulance go by. I was talking on the other night, and the temperature dropped and the wind chill. It was like fucking like 20 degrees. It's just like all over the fucking place.
Well, he was outside. I was, of course, boiling in my salon here, but well, this Saturday is supposed to be the biggest No Kings march yet. I mean, there were first 3 or 5 million, then 7 million. This is going to be phenomenal with 3,000 different communities or cities or towns or villages having protests. So I think there should be a no asshole parade because they're all assholes.
Well, it's funny because what's the Illinois governor? Pritzker? Yeah, Pritzker. He went up there today. He's like, well, we have to be organized. We have to have our Project 2029, because of the Project 2025. And all the comments below are like, oh, what about Project Now?
Now.
Like,
one good turn of the screw, and I pity anybody that has to be at the airport these days, is that somehow they've denied the cunts in Congress to get a free pass going directly through TSA right now, so they can suffer the consequences that everybody else is.
And they have ICE agents. So you LaGuardia, it's like it's chaos because TSA is not being funded, and they have ICE agents harassing people like, oh, you have to go through this military wall before you get on your plane. And then that's like, well, I'm landing. I'm not actually taking off. Well, your plane might crash. It might run into a fire truck.
And you think that the moron the moron in charge cares? I mean, first of all, he's got his own private jet, if not a few, especially under, commission of other countries. But I have to say, would somebody please give this ass clown a frickin' dictionary? I mean, we've heard blunder after blunder, but I had to look up calling this war, which it is a frickin' war, because the war is never over. We know my mantra. An excursion. Now, an excursion is like a pleasant journey, usually for leisure, whereas an incursion, which he doesn't even know the word, is a sudden invasion or raid. But, it's not a war. It is a war. No, it's an excursion. No, you're a freaking idiot. And I've never seen dumber people who have graduated from, it just goes to show, even college graduates, well, at least all the ones in this administration, they need to get some freaking schooling. They need to go to they need to get Munchausen disease instead of they're the ones that have Trump derangement syndrome.
He's declaring war on the world. I mean, really, he is. I mean, and it's just annoying that he doesn't, in my mind, doesn't represent me, but I am a citizen of the United States, so at some level he does, and it's infuriating.
What's great is the entire world has turned against what the real America is. And the real America really is the 20% that still stand behind it, because that is what this country has always been. We just pretended to be elsewise.
It's
We
more like
pretend
30%,
to be-
Lydia. It's more like 30%.
30. The thing is, we pretend to be what we are not, when what we are is racist, prejudice, ignorant, impoverished, except for the 1 or maybe 10%. Don't understand what history really is, and in chronic war, except for 10 years of America's existence. So actually, right now, the representation that we have around the world is a very accurate representation. I'm sorry to say.
And because these ideas are, the vast majority is against a lot of these ideas, this voting act they're going to try to push, which, you know, by the way, it's not just going to try to, not there just to try to intimidate immigrants, but
married
also women is the big one, because so many women or new divorced women still have the old last name, not their
it's just bullshit. He's the cunt who does mail in voting.
It's to stop women from voting. I mean, it's because they want women to bring their birth certificates. I mean, fuck off.
I think women need to bring their burn certificates.
Oh,
I'll say, Annie, start to light a fire. We do outnumber. What the hell is going on? I have no idea. This is ridiculous.
let's kind of just change the direction here. I mean, did you hear about
give me something good?
What of the Dayton Weber, the 27-year-old quadruple amputee professional cornhole player who murdered someone? Is a
cornhole player?
Yeah, a professional cornhole player,
and he's a really good cornhole player with no limbs.
Yeah, he has all these prosthetics, and they're good enough to shoot a gun.
Did he murder someone with a cornhole ball?
With a gun. Yeah, you look up that story. It's kind of fun.
Could one argue that the prosthetics are performance enhancing?
That was a debate with that. Oh, another murderer, that Pistorius guy from Australia that murdered his wife.
Of course.
And he had the prosthetic legs. They're like fucking.
Well, I mean,
springs.
I'd be pretty pissed off if I had, 1, 2, or 4 prosthetics, but that doesn't mean I go and murder somebody because of a cornhole or a pickleball game. But I have to say, in another piece of really good news,
sure,
you gotta love them for this. The Swiss, the award-winning cartoon of the moment, is a picture of Trump's face as a toilet bowl. Yeah, look it up. It's fantastic.
So is the rim? So is the rim of the seat like a giant open mouth?
Yes, you got it, Tim. And I mean, look, shit goes in, shit comes out. That's basically what it's all about. Shit goes in, shit comes out. And we've never had a shittier motherfucker telling the rest of the world what to do, blowing shit up, lying about everything. By now it must be up to 56,000 lies. Got to check the Washington News on that.
Well,
yes.
Well, I'm going to change. Speaking of assholes, hold on, son. Speaking of assholes, there's been a major bust and kind of cops have basically been busting these kind of giant choruses of twerking asses in spring break in Panama City. That there's these massive beach parties and all these girls, like just hundreds, maybe thousands, are just going insane with just twerking their asses. And I guess parts of the floor like, hey, we can't do this here. And they're like trying to arrest.
If a big fat twerking ass doesn't scare the average male, I don't know what would. The only thing would be better if they were blowing out some fucking bloody chunks out in the faces of those that shouldn't be looking. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying.
So I had this thought today, Lydia. And
you just
yes, I had to look it up, and you probably know all about.
Don't assume.
Like when you're talking with someone and you're in a conversation, and then there's like a proper noun. There's a word or a name of something that they forget what the name is, and then that ability not to remember is infectious and contagious to you, and then you can't remember what it is either. And I looked up, that must be studied, and it's called social or collaborative memory failure.
Nice.
There's many different ways it can happen. One is cue disruption. So if someone's like blah blah blah, which kind of like you're kind of following it along, and then that kind of person's pause can throw you off because you sync up. which goes into shared mental context. In a group, people tend to align their thinking. If the group is stuck, everyone might start searching for the same wrong direction, reinforcing the block.
That's a perfect depiction of what's going on in America today. That's so astute.
Yeah,
by the way, I'm going to talk about the word in a minute. Go ahead. I've talked about it before.
Tip of the tongue effect. This is a known phenomenon in cognitive
Timmy's
psychology
tongue?
where you feel close to recalling something but can't. Hearing other struggles can trigger the same state. Social contagion, similar to how yawning, certain cognitive states like confusion or uncertainty can spread through subtle cues, tone, hesitation, body language.
Sure.
Collaborative, this is a fun one, collaborative inhibition. Research shows groups can sometimes recall less than individuals working alone because they interfere with each other's retrieval strategies. So in other words, if you're hanging around a lot of dumb people, you become dumber. Yeah, which is
I can absolutely understand the dilemma.
But there are techniques to break it up. If you can't remember, they say if you pause, change the subject briefly, it might come back. Or if you demand everyone go silent for a moment.
I love that.
You can try different cues. And the last one, don't be ashamed. You still are allowed to look it up.
Nice.
So all right. So that was a little research I went into today. I wanted to.
I can understand that. That's a very good topic there, Tim. I want to go back to the word which I'm shocked by. And of course, doing the podcast, we had to learn because is just a pause between the next thought. But Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, not O'Clinton.
I want to be that person.
Hillary Clinton, they are the masters of umming. And I've noticed this because in doing the podcast and just, recollecting on the way that one does speak, and that which you use a lot, is a holding pattern to get to the next thought, which is kind of what you were just talking about. But you'd be surprised at how many newscasters do not do that, but how many politicians just might. It's a real phenomena. And I'll speak about a pause in conscious cognitive ability. The freaking White House, which means should be the big house, turns down the only act of generosity perhaps Elon Musk has ever offered. He offered to pay TSA workers. White House said no. Fuck off.
Well, that's part of the Project 2025. They want to privatize TSA. Basically, it's
they're fucking themselves.
Yeah, but these supporters, they're provincial hicks. They don't leave the house. They definitely don't leave the country. So these things. A
lot of people are not leaving the airport. They got to be there for 8 freaking hours in some of these places.
Well, so check this out.
Tie it up, Jimmy. Check it out.
There's been these humming drone sounds in New Jersey, Virginia, Connecticut that are driving people nuts, and they're like, "Where is it coming from?" And it's this it's kind of like this electronic bee swarm. As it's driving people nuts, and now they're trying to figure it out. It's these new data centers that there's like just thousands of these things, and it creates this it's driving people nuts. It's the new infrastructure has a new ambient sound to it, and now
everybody can have tinnitus. Now everybody can have a permanent type of tinnitus.
Exactly.
How about this to end this? How about thousands of crows swarm Tel Aviv skyline?
Yes, I think it's some ominous biblical event
we need another token of true end times. I mean, we're in it. It's just taking a long time. And going out like that. However,
it would be amazing. Like as Dave Button said, it would be amazing that in all of human history, we do live in the end times. I mean, what are the chances of that? Or like global warming?
Well, you wouldn't know it if it happened, now would you? You're going to know it if it happens.
Yeah,
no, you can only pray for a better day.
It's going to be over pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly. Hey. Well, one thing that GW did say that was accurate before the last pandemic, he goes, by the time you hear about a pandemic, it's already arrived.
Mhm.
You don't want to even know about it. Yeah. anyhow.
Again, as someone that, for mysterious reasons, is not affected by the average or usual pandemic.
Yeah,
Or
but
the
Lydia,
pandemic.
you have super immunity. You never got it. You're one of the only, you might be the only person I know that never got COVID. I
That's
mean,
true.
you hear about it, but I don't know.
The only time you've ever seen me felled is by food poisoning, maybe 2 times. And
Yeah.
that was it.
Yes.
Anyway,
it's true.
to close that off,
Sure.
that's why I prefer to cook my own food. Anyway, this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunchtime and Simon Slater in his bathing suit, looking good, Simon. Yes.
And this week it's actually a rare 2-part series.
Part
This
one
week,
of
Larry Mullins, the drummer extraordinaire, and well,
AKA Toby Dammit, played with Iggy Pop, the Swans, the Stooges. We're going to get all of them. And here's part 1. This, as always, is the Lydian Spin. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl and Larry Mullins, aka Toby Dammit, and many other names, composer, musician of multiple instruments, basically percussion, drums, keyboards, has played with so many people, can't wait to get into that. Some of the most difficult performers, and being such a nice guy, Larry, you just squeezed right in there. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm freshly recovered from a major bout of jet lag from New Zealand, but I think my brain finally arrived.
Well, how
That's
did
a
you-
long journey. That's a long journey. I will be going to New Zealand and Australia in June many times, but I never have jet lag. I just am jet lag, I guess.
And so
Congratulations.
Larry, you're in Berlin. How did you go? Which direction did you go? I mean, I know a lot of times via Europe, you're going through like Dubai these days, which you can't really go through. So how did you do it?
No, I went through. Let's see. I went through Singapore. I went through Wellington to Sydney to Singapore to
boy.
London to here.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It
What were
was-
you doing what were you doing there?
I was touring down there with Nick.
With
We were
Nick
down
Cave?
there. Yeah, we were down there for a month.
So it's Singapore. So you cut through, like, you go over like Kazakhstan or something. I'm just trying to figure out how that.
I have no idea. It took forever. It
It's
was
long.
it was I don't know what I was thinking. I just wasn't thinking when the tickets were being booked, and I just said, I just want to go home, like the next day, and I did the whole thing in one go, and it was like door to door. It was like
like 36 hours or something.
no, it's 40
Oh, wow.
47 hours door to door.
How,
Yep, and I
I'll-
think that's
I'll-
because all the new
That's-
the airspace that you can't go through. I think it's just longer than ever. Is
Maybe it was something like that. I don't know, but I know when I finally got here, I didn't know who I was or where I was or.
I'm very lucky. I'm just going to go to LA a few days, then go to Wellington, 14 or 16 hours, no biggie. So
Well,
in
it
June,
is still,
that's
that's a
brutal. And right now, the airports, cancellations, TSA, all of this nonsense, it's so ridiculous.
oh no, that's too bad.
but you've recovered. You've recovered. You're getting over the jet lag.
Yeah, it took quite a while. I was really upside down, but
Yeah, well, they say it's an hour. It's a day for every hour of time difference.
Oh God, I didn't want to try to calculate.
Did you see any good films? I see any good films on the plane.
I did. I watched a few actually, and I'm trying to get my head. Now I can't even remember what I watched.
Of course not. They go by.
Yeah, I did watch. I remember discovering quite a few good things on there, but yeah. Anyway,
It might come back to you, but it might not. Anyway, before we started recording, I was trying to recall when we first met because I can't really remember, but I know it was some time ago, and it was with Jesse Evans.
Yeah, I mean, as you posed that question, my brain quickly zapped back to where it was, and it was in Barcelona. It was in Barcelona, and we were opening up for you.
Okay.
And we had done a quick sound check. We had done our sound check, and then you did yours, and I think the three of us went out for lunch somewhere.
Okay. And
And
then we knew it was on.
we sat outside, and yeah, it was really nice, actually. It's a great show. I remember your show. You were fantastic.
I have no idea what it was, but I remember a show we did together, which was under the auspice of Carla Bozelick in the festival in Austria, where we did the entirety of Queen of Siam, the only time it's ever been done.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. I'll never forget that one. That was really
And Jesse Evans was on that, James Johnston, Ian White. You were playing bongos as well.
Yeah, I sure did. I think I possibly broke one of my hands on that bongo solo.
Whoa.
I'm fine now. But
What do you mean possibly? So you never knew?
I mean, I watched, because it was filmed, and I watched it later, and I was like really wailing. I was really going totally.
It was a damn it good bongo solo.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I broke I might have like done something. Anyway, that was a long time ago. But
with all of the other monsters you've performed with, you break your hand.
Well, I didn't, and I would have been black or something. But no, but I definitely beat the living daylights out of my hands on that. But yeah, that was really quite an experience.
I would say it was quite an experience. It was quite an experience because that album specifically, in retrospect, people have a different idea of what it was. Like it's half nursery rhymes and then half big band. It's like wherever your mind was when you first heard it, you might have an understanding of what that album really was. But when you go back and hear it, it's like it's half nursery rhymes.
Oh yeah, when you first asked me to do that, I just presumed that I was going to be playing drums or something. And then as we got further in the conversation, you mentioned Ian was going to be playing drums, and I'm like, well, I said, okay, well, what am I playing actually? And you said, oh, you can play percussion and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I said, let me listen to Queen of Siam again. It's been a few years since I've listened to that. I'll listen to it really closely, and I'll make a list of everything. And I went through the whole record, and then I called you and I said, Lydia, there's no percussion on that record other than there's the bongo solo.
Atomic
bongos, which is obvious. And then there's the vibraphone on Spooky.
But I'm like, right, yeah. Sorry.
But I said, other than that, there's no percussion at all. And I said, but I'll tell you one thing, there's a hell of a lot of crazy piano. I said, who's playing piano? And you said, you are.
There we went.
Funny. Well, so, maybe Lydia's intuitive or sensitive, because by a lot of measurements, people consider the piano a percussion instrument.
Well, technically it is, but
yes.
But nonetheless, and I thought, well, it's, I can do a bunch of Thelonious Monk,
you can do whatever you want. Look, you can do whatever you want.
It ain't going to be that hard. It ain't going to be that tricky. I said, sure, no problem. I can do that. Yeah, I can do it. And then I really
think we had one rehearsal, maybe two. I don't know.
Oh no, we had some days. We had some days because we put it together there.
Yeah, we had to.
Yeah, but what was my blessing was that I had months before that happened, and I started listening to that record really closely, song by song, and figuring it out. And then I realized I'm in a hell of a lot of trouble.
But it's such a simple, other than the big band stuff, because it's so simple. Sometimes the easiest things are the hardest things.
No, what I meant by trouble was the big band stuff.
Yeah.
Figuring out all that stuff on piano. And I thought, oh my God, actually so far over my head. And I spent those, it was 2 or 3 months. I had 2 or 3 months, and I was staying in LA where there was a piano, and I worked that stuff out. I learned.
Did a damn good job.
We
might have to have a rematch sometime in the future.
I tell you, when I showed up in, I told you, I said, oh, just give me an upright piano. I'll bash it up, and you know, it'll be fun. And then you call me back and you go, look, this is what they have for you. This is the piano that they have for us. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a concert grand Bossendorfer, you know, like
Whoa.
a giant,
On 96 keys or something like that.
Well,
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
good.
it's like it's a full length concert.
Oh, that, yeah.
Bossendorfer, a 200,000 euro piano or something. I thought, oh my God, really? I'm going to play that? Anyway, so I really, really worked. So when I showed up there, I really had it together. And there were times, there was plenty of Thelonious Monk time, but there was lots of really serious parts and stuff. And I had figured that out.
I just think
Larry-
half of it is the simplest music ever created, since I wrote most of it. And as a non-musician, it's nursery rhymes.
So did you do, Larry, did you do like a chord chart thing and you played off that, or did you actually learn note by note what was played on the record?
I learned note by note, song by song.
So you did a classical approach to a big band.
Genius.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, I really figured it out.
I think all that knowledge needs to be reapplied again sometime in the future. I mean, you figured it out once. Come on now.
It's all in the back of my head now for the rest of my life. I'll never get that out of my head. But yeah, that was really a lot of fun. And of course, James was fantastic. And
James Johnston, Ian White. We had Jesse on sax, Jesse Evans.
Yeah, we really had a good time there. It went nicely.
It went damn it well, I would say. So what year was? You remember when that was? I do not.
Oh, I don't know. It must have been at least maybe 16, 17 years ago, something like that.
Oh, it's got to be probably longer than that, but who's counting?
Maybe more. Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, you've played with so many people, both in the studio and live, including like almost 10 years with Iggy Pop. Now we got to ask,
well,
how the hell was that? Also, look, you're coming into somebody who's so established, and let's face it, first two albums were like two of the best albums ever made of Iggy Pop. Yeah. And you're coming in mid-life of his career and recording with him and then playing live for almost 10 years. How the hell did you get that gig? 12 years. How the hell did you get that gig? And how the hell was that?
I never told you that story.
I never heard it. Tell it to me now.
Oh God, I'll try to make this quick. But so of course, as a teenager, I was a huge fan. I'll never forget first discovering the Raw Power album.
Oh, come on, yeah.
It was Raw Power, and I was
changed our lives.
Yeah, I was, I was probably 17 or something, and I was at a party, at some house in Knoxville, Tennessee, and everyone's getting drunk and stuff. And so there's records playing in the living room, and someone yelled, "Go in there and put on another record." And so I went in the living room and got on the floor flipping through the records. But first thing on that stack was Raw Power. And that was the first time I ever saw that cover. And I was
so beautiful.
Yeah. I was mesmerized and transfixed, like, what the hell is that? And so I put that on, and I just was sitting there on the floor of that living room alone, and that album came on, and it's Search and Destroy comes on, or it's like that came on, and I was just listening to listening to the speakers, just thinking, in retrospect now, I look back on it like I was actually listening to my future family. These people, they would all these people will be in my life later. I just don't know it now.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Were you already playing drums or percussion?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was in band since I was 13. I was playing shows in clubs, I guess, when I was 14, illegally, sneaking me in the back.
What kind of music was that?
Punk bands.
Uh-huh. Punk, and then you found the real punk, Iggy Pop.
Well, yeah. But anyway, I've remained later on. I went digging through his entire career, and I guess around that was the early 80s, and around that time he had sort of dropped off the map. He was cleaning up after Zombie Birdhouse. He had sort of disappeared for a while,
taking a break. Yeah.
Yeah, he was he was going cold turkey and whatever. He was straightening himself up, and so all of a sudden he had a comeback with this blah 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 record, and and he did a live concert on MTV at that time, and I watched that. It was in New York, um, and I remember the whole show. He spent that entire show running around back to the drum set, screaming at the drummer, all kinds of like really, really mad, yelling at the guy all the time. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. Like,
Oh, that could be me.
Yeah. I mean, he was really, really laying into the guy. And I'm like, wow, that's
well, because let's face it, he had some shitty bands for a while.
Yeah,
he really did.
Also, was that more theater or was it the drummer really fucking up?
It was I don't know. He just was not happy with it.
Okay.
And the band, frankly, wasn't that good anyway. And it was just kind of a mess. And so anyway, I watched that, and then I heard that he's going on tour right then, opening up for the Pretenders around the U.S. And so
Iggy Pop opening for the Pretenders.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God,
were hot at the time, and he was coming back.
Terrible bill.
Like, I guess that would have been like 86 or something.
That's a terrible bill.
Well, anyway, I checked the tour dates, and I was talking with the woman who was managing my band at the time. We were talking about it, and my band had broken up at that time, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and I wanted to leave Tennessee. Anyway, so we saw, hey, he's doing 2 shows. They're playing in Memphis and they're playing in Nashville. She said, look, I'll drive us. Let's go. So we went to Memphis, and which is like a 9-hour drive.
Yeah, it's far from Knoxville.
We drove there, and the show, they came on. The first thing I noticed was that he had a different drummer, and that was about less than 10 days later from the show. So I'm like, okay, so he's fired that guy, and he's got some new guy in here, and this guy definitely does not know any of this stuff. The Stooges stuff was terrible. It was just all wrong and bad, and the band wasn't happening. And I sat there watching him, and it just really got under my skin how messed up it was. And so we the next day he was playing in Nashville, so we were driving back, and we stopped and we saw him in Nashville also. And we got in there, same thing. When they came on, same thing. And I had this vision watching him, thinking, I know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to fix this whole situation. I'm going to get in touch with him, and I'm going to completely.
And how old were you at this point? Now, how old were you?
I was probably 17.
What? Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we went back to Knoxville. I checked the tour dates somehow, and obviously this was long before computers or the internet.
Yeah.
Or anything. And I got the whole listing, and I saw, my God, they're doing a whole cluster of shows in Ohio, because Chrissy is from Ohio, right? So I thought that's doable. I can drive up there. And so, I had a car, I had a station wagon, I had an old Chevy Nova station wagon. I put my drums in the back of the car, and I drove to Ohio, right? It's a bit further.
That's a long drive.
Well, it depends where. Yes.
Well, I think it was 5 or 6.
Okay.
Not so bad.
But it was all like, they were all close together within Ohio. And so I was sleeping in the front seat of my car, and I got tickets to all the shows. And so I started going. And but before I went, though, I had a complete psycho stalker plan. So I had made all these cassette tapes of me playing, and they were all the same. I made copies, and then I wrote these handwritten letters to him, kind of about my life and where I was from and what was going on in my life at the time and what I wanted to do and what I saw.
One second, because Larry Lawrence, Toby Dammit, you knew. I knew.
Well, it's weird now when I think back on it. I think, God, that was so insane. How did I do that? These days I think
so amazing.
But anyway, so I made these packages, like little, packages. I probably made like 15 of them, all handwritten letters. So I told him everything. And I told him, I said, look, I've got my drums in my car out in the parking lot. And
Ready to go.
if you want, I'll set them up for you and show you in the
cool.
parking lot how serious I am about this. And I told him about, how much I understood Scott Ashton and Hunt Sales and all the great drummers that he had in the past. And, and I knew how to do it all and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I got there to the first show, went, got in as soon as the doors opened, went and started passing out packages to the roadies on the stage, tour manager, I'd see them again, got one to the bus driver, it's like every show I would go, I just kept doing it, and, and I'd run out of packages finally after the 5th show or something, and I was also running out of money, and I thought, this is it, like nothing's happening. And, I did my best shot here. I feel good about it, but I'm going home, after this. So anyway, I was watching the show, and then in the middle of every show he was doing, he'd play TVI and kind of break it down and start just ranting a bunch of spontaneous stuff that he saw in the news that day or whatever. It was always different. But it was like an improvised monologue over, TVI. And so this last night he did it, he broke it down, and he started going on about growing up in a small town and being stuck there and trying to get out. He started he ranted everything about what I had written in my letter. And I realized, I got chills because I realized, oh my God, he's read my letter. He got one. He got it. He's got it and he's read it. And he just was going on and on and on about it. About sometimes the only thing that you can do in life is just get in your car and drive and just drive.
Amazing.
drive after what you believe in and what you want, and just drive. And I'm like, oh my God, So after the show, I was, chilled, and I thought, I'm still going home because I don't have any more money and this is it. But at least I know that I got to him, and somehow this worked. And so I was leaving, and then this guy walked up to me in the audience. I don't know, it was an arena, probably 3,000 to 5,000 people or something, all of us leaving. And this guy walks up to me, found me, and it's the stage tech with Iggy. His name's Joss. You probably have seen him over the years. He's the guy who's always running around after Iggy, fixing everything, all the chaos and everything. Anyway, at that time, well, he's always been a very muscular, well-built, sort of Mighty Mouse looking guy with a police cap on and a wife beater, right? Like, really, you don't want to mess with this guy. So he comes up to me, and he's from Leeds.
I do know this guy. I do know him. I know him.
He used to work with Banshees, and he worked.
I know him from that. Yeah.
Public Image, and he was in London.
He's a badass.
Yeah, he's a badass. So he comes up to me and goes, "Look, I got to tell you, what you're doing, you got to stop this. You can't do this anymore. You got to go home, and you can't do this anymore. You should be doing this through the management." And he was very quiet, light spoken about it, but very muscular, and basically saying, "Get the hell out of here." And I said, "Hey man, no hard feelings. I was doing the best I can. I was really sincere, but anyway, I was planning on leaving after this show anyway, so I'm gone. Nothing to worry." So I go out, and I'm like really exhilarated from that conversation. And I'm going to my car, and then I see him out the back loading a semi, loading the cases and everything. And I'm walking by him, and I go, "Hey man, really no hard feelings." And he took one look at me, and it was like, "Get the fuck away!" It was like, "Get away! I'm gonna kill you!" And I'm like, "Okay." Anyway, I had no idea that later on this guy was going to be one of my best friends, and be my drum technician for 9 years or 12 years. Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, we're enthralled. I got goosebumps.
Okay. So anyway, I'm sorry, this story, it continues a little bit
No, I
longer.
love it.
So I drove back to Knoxville and I thought, you know what? That is the way I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here with a pen and a piece of paper. I'm going to write other people. And
One way or another, I got to get out of here. I got to get out.
I definitely did have to get out of there. And I did. But so I picked like 5 other people that I wanted to possibly work with or play with. And I just, I wrote them and just, mailed them. I got mailing addresses and I mailed them. And one of the guys that I wrote was Greg Ginn, who owned SST Records and Black Flag. Right? And so, I was going to leave anyway, but I was saving up money, painting houses and everything else. And
which, one by the way, a lot of musicians have painted houses or done moving jobs. That's really a typical job. Yeah,
I was painting anything that wasn't moving in Knoxville, and saving up money. And so I was up on a ladder on the side of a house painting, and this lady comes out and she goes, "You've got a phone call from your mother." I said, "Oh, okay." So I go down the ladder. It's my mom, and she's like, "Look, there's a guy who called from California named Greg Ginn. Do you know?" I'm like, "Oh my God, what?" She goes, he's gonna call back in 5 minutes, and is it okay if I give him this phone number? And so I asked, and they said yes. So he called me. I was up on the ladder. Greg called. And he goes, "Look, I've got this package from you, and I've read your letter, and I'm listening to this tape, and I really like it all and everything. And you said that you're thinking of moving out here, and when are you going to do that?" And I said, "Oh, maybe this summer or something like that, later." Wow. He's like, "Well, what would it take for you to do that now?" And I said, "Well,
amazing."
I said, "What do you mean now?" He goes, "Like, can you leave tomorrow?"
What?
Yeah. "Can you leave tomorrow? What would it take?" And I said, "Well, God, I don't know, man." I was in shock. I was like, "I don't know. I guess, a little bit of money or something. I need gas money and
I need a ticket, something."
Well, I've got my car, so I'm like, he's like, "Well, how much money do you need?" I was so naive. I probably said like $400, Yeah. So,
which, by the way, was probably a lot of money back then anyway.
Yeah, maybe I said $250. I don't know. But anyway, I
doesn't matter. Something.
And he's like, "Look, I'm going to Western Union that to you right now. It's you can pick it up in 1 hour, and I want you to leave town tomorrow."
So fucking cool.
And I came down off the ladder, and I
must have been high.
Yeah, I put the paintbrush down, and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is happening," And so I told them I left. "I'm sorry, I'm leaving," and I went and told my parents I'm leaving and I'm not coming back, And I got one punk rock friend of mine who wanted to go to California to come with me to keep me company on the drive, and we drove
from
across
Knoxville
to LA to Long Beach. So we did it.
What did Greg Ginn want you for? Was this before you started playing with Mike Watt, or what did he want you for?
Well, Black Flag had broken up, and he wasn't doing anything.
Right.
And we were going to make a new band together. So,
and was the cassette you sent him just solo drumming, or was it keyboard, anything? Oh, so amazing.
Just drumming. And I was doing the best I could. And so I moved in with Greg. I drove right to his apartment and went right to his couch. I moved into his living room, and so I lived with him.
How old was Greg at the time? How old was Greg at that time? Do you know?
How old were both of you?
I don't know. It was 86, 87.
Right. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I don't know. About 20.
Yeah, I would have been. Maybe 9. No, I would have been 19 or 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greg, I was all excited. We're going to make this new band. We're going to get a bass player, and and it's going to be great, and blah blah blah. And so Greg wanted to rehearse, and I mean rehearse,
like every day for hours,
7 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Ridiculous.
Serious, but just him and me, just the two of us, and him playing bass. Anyway, and of course that was a bit disappointing. I mean, he can play bass, but you know, I think he's one of the greatest guitar
Well, the
players.
guitars, yeah, but he's known for it. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and also that's a brutal come to the couch moment.
Yeah, I was really so dying for him to play guitar, but he kept saying, "We're not ready yet. We're not ready yet. We got to get the groove, you know, and all this stuff." So I'm like, okay. So I thought he was going to kill me. We played so hard for 8 hours a day, every day. And, you know, after about a month of it, you know, I was really falling apart. And I said, look, you know, what do you think about getting a bass player and you move into guitar and we could be 3 people then? And he's like, I really don't think we're ready. And I'm like, oh my God.
What a freaking obsessive Greg Ginn. Oh my God.
He, you know, he's well known to like his herbal flowers. And
Supplements.
at that time, I was completely straight, you know, and I really had a hard time connecting with him because he was really on the other side of the moon all the time.
Well,
and
also with stoners, nothing against stoners, but when you're working with them, I've been in situations like that where you don't know what you're going to necessarily get from one day to the next. The emotions of those hyper present moments are just it's flying all over the place.
I mean, I don't know how he was doing it. Like we would play all day and then he'd come home, smoke a big one, and he recorded everything we did every day on cassette.
And then listen to it.
And then he'd listen to it all night, stoned. And he'd get up in the morning. It was completely like spiraling around in some bizarre.
So insane.
It was insane. And we did that for a month. And honestly, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I didn't think I could take it anymore. So I told him that I was going to move on. I needed to move on. So I found another place to stay. I played with a few other people. Did you know Texacola Jones?
Oh yeah, of course.
I moved in with Texacola Jones and played in Tex and the Horseheads. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in
Why
that
not?
whole,
Sure.
that whole rodeo.
And there was a lot going on in LA at that point too. I mean, at that period, there was so much going on.
There was a lot. It was a great scene. I was really Raji's was around at that time.
Yeah.
If you remember, and all that. So I met so many great people. I met Nick Knox and Raji's and became friends with Nick Knox. Anyway, so there was lots of cool stuff happening. And so one night I was in a bar, and the David Letterman show was on a television, and I was just watching it, you know. And tonight's guest is Iggy Pop, and so Iggy was on there, and he's doing a song, and he comes and sits down with David, and they're talking, doing the interview. And so David was like, you know, look, I got to ask you, I'm really curious, you know, how you find your musicians, because it seems like you have different musicians on every record. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
You put an ad out in the newspaper, or where do you get all these people? And he's like, oh, no, there's always people wanting to play. And, you know, a year ago, there was this 3-eyed drummer that was following me around Ohio, and he started talking about me. And I was sitting there in the bar, and I just froze. I'm like, oh my God. He's sitting there. He remembers. He's still thinking about this. And I'm like, wow. And then, so shortly after that, there was a guy who was coming to a lot of shows I was doing around LA. He was like a heavy metal guy, though. And after every show, he was always talking to me, wanting to, you know, let's get together and jam, you know, and try and put something together. I like the way you play and blah, blah. And I was always sort of like trying to avoid him, you know. And but we were talking. He was a nice guy, and we were talking one night, and he goes, "Look, man, I got this crazy audition tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, really? For what? Who with?" And he goes, "Some singer named Iggy Pop. You ever heard of him?" You ever heard of him?
Coming to fruition.
I'm like, what?
I'm coming.
He didn't even know who he was. He was.
How did you get the audition?
And let's face it, that period, like Iggy had a lot of crappy musicians who didn't even know who he was, which is why a lot of it sucked. So then finally, somebody who knows the shit, somebody who knows it.
He was just friends with his son, Eric, you know, and Eric had, like, you know, got him in there. So, so I said, wow. I said, I can't believe that's happening. I said, look, let me tell you a little story. So I told him what I just told you. And I said, you know, if you get a chance to talk to him, if if you really want to crack the ice, tell him you know the guy who did that.
Oh, nice move.
Yeah, tell him you know the guy who did that, and I'm here in town. And
Cool.
sure enough, so the next day I was working. I went to work. I was working at a restaurant with Dave Catching. Do you know Dave Catching?
Oh yeah, we had him on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we had him on. Yes.
Look, most musicians have to work. Let's face it.
Yeah. Well, Dave and I were living together back when that was
Oh,
80,
amazing.
88, 89. Dave and I lived together, and he got me a job in this restaurant. We were working up in Laurel Canyon in a restaurant, and so I'd worked that night with Dave, and then I went home, and there was a blinking light on the answering machine, if you remember those, and I hit the answering machine, and there was this voice, Larry, this is Iggy calling. You know, I got your number from this guitar player, and you know, I'm really interested in you and I getting together and talking. And I'm like, oh, at first I thought this is bullshit. I thought
The prank, right?
This is a prank. That guy is pulling my leg. He's got someone to call. This is no way. But I listened, and he goes, I'm staying at this hotel in Westwood, and here's my phone number. I'm in room blah blah blah, and staying under this name. And I thought, well, I'll call it. So I called.
Yeah.
I called the hotel, said that room number and that name, and connected, and it was him.
You said, I'm here and I'm coming. Come on now.
And he was like, wow. You know, so we talked a while. You know, we got along great immediately on the phone. I knew we would. But he was like, look, I've got a rehearsal space booked right now, and I want you to come down tomorrow, and I want to play. You know, there'll be some other musicians around, but you know, we'll put some guys together, but I just wanted to see how this goes. And then I was with him every day for the next 9 years of my life.
Now, because you know why? You knew it when you first heard Raw Power as a youngster.
I knew it. We connected.
Sometimes you manifested.
Yeah. And you know, and we were really together all the time, not just when we were touring, you know, we were together all the time. And so I ended up moving to New York, you know, of course, that's when he was living there, but we toured everywhere. I mean, over the course of all of it, we did nearly 700 shows or something together.
Wow.
And who else was in the band at that point?
Well, we went through lots of different other guys.
Of course, because you know why? The originals are hard to impersonate.
You know, we went through multiple guitar players and
who was the best according to you? Was there any that were the best?
Well, we had a guy named Eric Schermerhorn who was really, really good. And Eric was with us for a while, for some years, but they had a falling out. And, you know, it's hard. You know, the shows are hard.
It's hard fucking
and
work.
At that time, he was in impeccable condition, you know, because he had cleaned up, and he was actually way more dangerous than he had ever been in the past because he was physically totally fit and crazy on stage. And
this is the late 80s, 90s. When is this period?
This is all through the 90s.
Yeah, all through the 90s.
That's when he cleaned up. And he was incredibly strong, fast, and totally, you know.
And was the show like just a you know, a compilation from the beginning of the Stooges stuff to whatever he was doing, you know, the latest stuff he was doing?
That's what he always does. That's what he's always done. Is he does a majority of like you know, iconic Stooges songs with some of his hits, and then maybe one or two songs off the current record. That's always.
What were your favorite songs to play? Or favorite songs in general, because like we've all got them.
Well, I mean, you know, all the Stooges. I mean, playing the Stooges song. It was obviously this was a major dream come true, but it none of it compared to, you know, because when Scott, you know, after I quit working with him in '99, you know, he continued on for a bit, and then he put the Stooges back together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and this whole thing began, and
with Mike on bass,
with Mike Watt on bass,
Mike Watt.
and this thing went for some years, and they had a lot of major success with that. But at one point, Scott had a stroke on an airplane, and got taken off and put straight into an emergency ward in London, and stayed there for months. And so, shit hit the fan, as they say. And they had that. I think they had 30 more shows or something booked that summer. And so they were trying to figure out, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so the tour manager, Henry, said, we got to call Larry. And so I had not spoken to Jim in 9 years. We were together every day for 9 years. And
For any reason, or just that was it? That you had other things to do.
We had a collapse. It happens in relationships, and he went that way.
Especially when you're when it's that tight, that long every day.
Yeah, I mean, our lives were just going in total opposite directions.
Yeah.
He went through a terrible divorce, and I had just gotten married, and we were just going.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was like completely inspired and happy, and he was really going dark on the downs, and and we just weren't connecting, and I had a lot of I was working with some other bands, and I had a large tour with another one, and I'm like, I have to go. And so so we didn't speak for 9 years, and then all of a sudden I got a phone call from him, and it was like James Bond situation. He goes, I knew it was him. He goes, "Hi, Larry, how you doing?" I said, I'm fine, Jim. How are you, man? It's great to hear you. He goes, "Yep. Look, you got to get on an airplane tomorrow morning. Are you all right with that?" And I'm like,
these people just expect you to come on right now. And yeah.
Not a phone call, nothing for 9 years. And then it's, you have to get on a plane tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning.
Were you living in Berlin at the time?
Yeah, I was in Berlin.
And where were you supposed to go the next day?
Just to London.
Okay.
So then from that point on, I stayed in the Stooges for the rest of the duration of the Stooges.
Oh, cool.
And what I was getting at was, I played all those songs like 1,000 times with him, with different musicians and stuff like that. Yeah. No one ever got it right, ever. No one ever knew how to play those songs right.
I mean,
but so I flew into London and went into rehearsal with those, and I knew it was going to be Mike, and I knew Mike, so that was fine.
Likewise.
Yeah, but I had never met James Williamson. And so the first day rehearsal was just going to be us without Iggy. And so we got in there, and they had the full back line set up, right? So it's like 2 full stacks, and a combo, full volume guitar situation there, and 2 SVTs there with a PA, like in a relatively small room.
So you're like hitting as hard as you possibly can. I mean, that's for
a
drummer,
yeah.
It's insane.
Devastation.
Could you even hear yourself? Could you even hear yourself hitting that hard?
I don't know, but I'll never forget when we first started, and James started Raw Power. The volume of that and how that was, my jaw just about hit the floor. And I mean, I know
perfect and right way, the only way to play it, which only they could. The original.
Yeah, and I know how to play that, and we jumped right into it, and I think I probably had a grin from ear to ear the whole day. I thought I probably nearly died afterwards, but it was so fun, and I heard all those songs played the right way.
Right way, yeah.
Search and Destroy played the right way, and I was really, anyway. So I did 60 shows with them. And
it must have been such a dream. Yeah.
It was such a dream, but it went back to that moment in that room. I thought about that room, because, I got so close with Steve McKay, the saxophone player, and of course Mike, but, because we traveled a lot separately from Iggy, and so we really, turned into over the course of 3 years and 60 shows and a lot of rehearsals. Those guys wanted to rehearse a lot. And we did. They wanted to get good, and we did get good, but we got really close, like family tight, and so it made me think a lot going back to that, listening to that record the first time, that I'm like, wow, actually, I mean, that was back, you know,
Yeah.
how long, the decades ago. But what I didn't know was I was actually listening to my future.
Yes.
Because that would have been
Wonderful.
Time
like,
folded right there. It's like time
Yeah.
folded.
Time
yeah.
folded. Well, and besides the first two Stooges records, Kill City with James Williamson and
Yeah.
Iggy Pop. By the way,
Yeah.
Johanna, one of my favorite songs, which I recorded
Yeah.
with Joey Killingsworth for his coming Iggy Pop tribute record. One of my favorite records. I mean, that record is so good. So good.
We always played Johanna. We played we played Beyond the Law and all kinds of really cool stuff from that.
Fucking good.
Larry, I got two questions. And answer them any way you want, or don't answer any of them. First of all, Iggy Pop was originally a drummer, and so why was he struggling finding good drummers? I've never, so there's that, and then the follow up. Did you play that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction of Madonna?
No. Scott did that.
Okay, all right.
Scott.
But going back to his he being a drummer originally, which the amount of lead singers are like the big ones, and from all the big, not all, but so many of them were originally drummers. And there's a real history of that. It's amazing. Marvin Gaye. I mean, it just keeps on going. But yeah, tell me about his relationship with the drums and your conversations about that.
Well, I mean, he was a left-handed drummer.
Okay, all right.
And he was good. There were sometimes, because we used to rehearse a lot, and we'd get installed places for 2 or 3 weeks and rehearse every day and stuff like that. That's all we did was rehearse all the time. And sometimes, we'd go eat and come back and he'd just sit down and play drums.
Cool.
On my drums.
Yeah.
Sit there and watch him, and he was good.
Did you ever have a drum off with him? That would have been great. A drum off, two drummers going at it.
He's left-handed, so he really played backwards, so the drums were set up the wrong way. But he could play, of course. Obviously, you've seen him dance and stuff. He has great.
Well, he hits the marks, and lead singers hitting the marks. Rhythmic accuracy as a lead singer, I think, is more important than pitch. I mean, you got to hit those marks.
The really cool thing that he did in his life, or the thing that I loved that he did, was he was in some bands in Ann Arbor, and he at one point this was before the Stooges, very young, he just got a wild idea to go to Chicago, and he lived for a little while in Chicago and tried playing. He was going to blues clubs, because a lot of the blues clubs, they'd have like open mic kind of jam,
checker room and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
open drum night.
Anybody could get up and play for a while or so if you could, and play with whoever. And he did that a lot as a young white guy from Michigan, and played with a lot of really cool, and he met a lot of really cool blues people. But I think he really learned a lot about groove and timing and stuff like that from that trip that he did there. But supposedly he taught Scott how to play. Scott was not a drummer. I mean, Ron was obviously a guitar player, but Scott was just a really, really good looking guy. And Jim, supposedly taught him how to play,
All right. So you would, all right, communicate about the drums. Yeah. It's funny because you told me the story about him when you're a kid yelling at a drummer and you witnessing that. I have a friend who was on this podcast who's a session drummer in LA. And when he was young, he had to sit in with Iggy on one show, and this is a great drummer. Iggy yelled at him.
Oh yeah. If it ain't right, if it ain't the way he wants it, he's gonna tear you to pieces. But
it's interesting that he's yelling at the drummer as having been one, when usually it's the guitar players that he's had post original Stooges, which were the worst part of the fucking band.
Yeah, well, he yelled at plenty of them too, and he used to, he used to do the thing. I've seen, I don't know, 100 mic stands flying through the air at some of these guys' heads.
Oh my God!
Really.
Well, and what's sad is it's kind of like Alice Cooper, Alice Cooper had so many great albums, Billion Dollar Babies being the last great one, and had so much great music, but then could not get the band he deserved after that.
Yeah, I mean,
which is weird because don't get it, you know.
yeah, I mean,
We had Dennis Dunaway on the podcast, and the heartbreaking thing was when he told us he wrote like the 10 top Alice Cooper songs. No fucking publishing royalties. Managers stole them all. I
no.
almost fell off my chair. I'm like,
Oh, that's
schools
tragedy.
out, all of the top 10, 18, all of it. And you're just like,
Oh no.
oh yeah. Well, come on. You know, they ripped off almost every black musician. Why not go after the white ones too? You know they did it. So come on. Top
So,
10 best Alice Cooper songs. But I mean, I think there's a parallel between Alice Cooper and Iggy Pop, that they had these really great records. Then they fell off, but then you came in, you stepped in, you kind of rescued them.
Well, I mean, at least
Alice
for a little
Cooper
bit.
needs you next. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
But
don't know.
only the
no,
billion-dollar baby.
I appreciate the mic stand flying because James Brown would do these subtle hand gestures, which means you're going to take a pay cut if you fuck up, all types of stuff like that. Where Iggy redirected it as part of the show. Yeah, I don't know if you get a pay cut, but you might get a fucking clobber in the head with a
We could
mic
never,
stand.
we could never keep a monitor man for more than a month.
Whoa. Well, I mean, to be honest, if the fucking amps
Well,
are that
look, the
loud,
guitar
hold
is
on,
so
Lydia,
loud.
Lydia, hold on. I was just about to say that. If the amps are
Yeah.
that loud, if you're a vocalist, if you're doing wedges, you're not doing ear monitors, which I assume you're doing wedges. How the
If
fuck are
there's-
you going to do that?
If there was feedback happening at all,
Yeah,
that
what are you
mic-
going to do?
once that mic stand is flying 15, 20 feet in the air like a helicopter blade at your head, these guys, they'd be right out the door, like, we'd have a different
So
monitor man.
how
It's
loud
hard.
was your monitor? How loud was your monitor on the? I mean, if you had those
Oh,
double stacks next to.
well, the problem for me was we were so loud. The guitars were so insanely loud at one point, and he was, like I said, extremely, potentially very, very violent and really dangerous. And so I actually at one point, I got a 30-inch bass drum, right?
Oh,
A really,
Hey,
really, really big one, a tall one.
As a protection wall?
Yeah. Yeah. As a barricade, because I knew, like, you can't get the mic stand through that, and so, I got this, like, sort of big thing like that set up, but we were so loud that I suddenly, because the tone of it was so deep and low that I couldn't hear it. And, or I couldn't
but you
hear
could feel it. You could feel it.
I could feel it, but I'm like, I need it to be so loud. We ended up building an entire club PA just for me. Basically like a whole club PA, right? So a bass box, two big 15-inch, cabinets, and then horn, like a whole club PA right there on my left. I could touch it, blowing me away.
You had
Do you have tinnitus? Do you have tinnitus yet?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Who doesn't? I know we all do.
Yeah, no. I mean, I also, I've been working with Giraffe for.
Well, we're barely.
I think we're going to have to hang on. I think, Larry, we're going to have part 2 if you don't mind.
Okay.
We're going to have, because we covered Iggy, but we still have to cover Swans and Nick Cave. You will be the only one, I think, on this podcast after 445 episodes that we need a second podcast. If you're up for it.
Yeah, it's fine. I had to ramble that story out.
No, we love it. And by the way, you're recovering from jet lag, so you're probably you got some time off. So,
but you're about to go right back to LA, so you're gonna get a new.
Wait,
jet
when?
lag. I got a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm coming out. I'll be out there in April.
Well, we got time. Let's have a part 2. I think we need to get into some of those other motherfuckers you played
Who are
with.
you working with? Who are you working with out there? Just some recording performances.
I'm just doing a show, one show. It's like it's a tribute to Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. So it's with Danny Elfman and Mark Mothersbaugh and the B-52s, and I used to know Paul.
At the Hollywood Bowl. Where the hell is that happening?
It's at the Greek Theater.
Is Cliff Martinez going to partake? Because he did a lot of the film score for Pee Wee's Playhouse.
he's not on the list. I know that Danny is.
Yeah.
There's a whole, it's also like a big comedy event. There's a lot of comedians, a lot of people I don't even know, but yeah, there's a small sort of orchestra or a small band orchestra that's doing all the music for the whole show, and I'm in that.
You're in the house, the pit band for the whole night?
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
So I mean, because Danny Elfman, so is that all notated, like a whole score, multiple scores? What is that?
Well, you know more than I do at this point.
All right, it's okay.
I don't know.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is you can read charts. Yeah, I mean, you're a professional musician on many levels. So yeah.
If I can play grand piano and Queen of Siam,
there you go.
Well, come on now. I don't think
it's the truth.
I'm going to take a step back on that one. I'm going to say you almost broke your hand on the bongos. How about that?
Take a close listen to that record. That is no walk through the park.
I think it is one of the simplest things I've ever done, but thank you very much for finding the finesse in all of it. We're going to talk to you again real soon because we got to get to the next part. We got to get to the Swans. We got to get to Nick Cave. We got to get to all the rest of what you've done. So you have a few weeks off. In a couple of days, I'm going to be back at you, and then we're going to set up another time for part 2 because we got to get to part 2.
Absolutely. No, anytime.
And yeah, I appreciate you doing this at such short notice. It's really cool. And
time for you to go and take a nap now because I know it's getting late for you in Berlin. But I mean, who knows? Jet lag, time, one long second that goes on forever.
The problem, I'm not sleepy.
Good. Me ever. So good to be back in touch, my friend.
Yeah, Lydia.
I'm so happy about that. And I will be the stalker you once were for session 2. All it's going to take is one email and ain't going to be too hard. Thank you so much.